Welcome to the Explainer. So today we are rolling up our sleeves and getting right into Module 28, Chapter 1. We're going to completely unpack the strategic design of an ISO 14001-2026 audit program. If you're involved in environmental management, you already know that auditing is the engine that drives continual improvement. But the 2026 standard, it pushes us to completely rethink how that engine is actually built. Let me hit you with a crucial question right out of the gate. Seriously, think about this. Is your audit program just a calendar of events? Are you just plotting dates on a spreadsheet, assigning some names, and kind of hoping for the best? Because if you are, it is really time to shift that mindset entirely. Look, as a lead auditor, it's time to stop viewing the audit as this static checklist of routine dates and simple tick box compliance. That's the old way. We have to transition to viewing the audit as a strategic instrument. We're talking about a dynamic system that is risk-based, drives actual environmental performance, and builds true resilience. It's about giving top management absolute, verifiable confidence that environmental policies aren't just sitting in a binder somewhere, but are actually operating in the real world. Here is our blueprint for today. 1. Beyond the schedule. 2. Defining the scope. 3. Risk-based frequency. 4. Building the team. And 5. Verifying competency. Let's get to it. Part 1. Beyond the schedule. So, the 2026 standard literally redefines the entire purpose of your audit program. It is no longer just a hunt for nonconformities. It's a high-level tool for governance. It actually forces your program to adapt to changing environmental conditions and new regulations. By integrating environmental priorities with high-level governance, your audit program suddenly becomes this incredibly dynamic tool that proves your organization can handle complex risks. It's a total game changer. Moving into Part 2, defining the scope or setting the structural boundaries. So your scope establishes exactly where your audit operates, and, critically, what risks it has to capture. And listen, it is not just drawing a physical line around a factory. Under the new standard, the scope absolutely must reflect the real-world internal and external issues affecting your EMS. It has to perfectly align with your policy commitments and your compliance obligations. Because if your scope is off, you might completely miss the exact areas where your biggest environmental impacts are actually happening. We aren't just looking inside the four walls of the business anymore. The standard places a massive emphasis on the lifecycle perspective. Imagine a manufacturing company that outsources some highly polluting processes to a third party. Under ISO 14001-2026, you can't just ignore that. Your scope has to capture those supply chain interactions and even the end-of-life disposal of your products to get a true evaluation of the environmental footprint. Part 3. Risk-based frequency. This is the absolute heart of the matter. The standard demands that audit frequency adapts dynamically to environmental risk exposure and operational complexity. You don't just audit every department once a year because it looks neat and tidy on a spreadsheet. You allocate your precious audit resources, your time, your people, to the areas that pose the highest potential for harm or regulatory failure. Say it with me. Priority is driven by risk, not by the calendar. To put that into perspective, let's look at risk-based planning in the real world. Think about a pharma plant dealing with incredibly strict wastewater discharge limits. That risk is high. Consequences are severe, right? That probably needs monthly verification. Now compare that to an electronics manufacturer dealing with hazardous waste. Maybe that requires quarterly process audits. Then take an administrative office. Their primary risk? Low-impact stuff, paper, basic energy. For them, an annual or even biannual review is perfectly fine. That is how you optimize your program. All right, Part 4, building the team. A modern environmental management system is highly technical. Emissions control, complex waste treatment, life cycle assessments. You cannot expect a single lead auditor to be an expert in all of that. It's just not realistic. An ideal multidisciplinary team balances things out. Think about a mix where maybe 40% of the weight is the lead auditor ensuring methodology and independence, 30% is technical experts who actually understand the process engineering, and the final 30% are regulatory specialists, navigating the legal frameworks. That diversity is what makes your audit credible. Which brings us nicely to Part 5, verifying competency. Look, competency under the standard is way more than just passing a test. It's an ongoing progression across 3 pillars. First, you've got technical knowledge, understanding the science and the risk tools. Second is methodological application, the actual skill of gathering evidence and running the plan, do, check, act cycle. But the third one, which is so often overlooked, is behavioral integrity. Audits uncover sensitive regulatory issues. Your auditors must be ethical, objective, and highly diplomatic to navigate those tough conversations without just pointing fingers. It's all about continuous improvement. When you pull all this together, documenting your team's findings, the scope, the frequency, your audit program transforms into a living, formal management system record. It maintains systematic oversight, and it visually proves leadership's commitment to the environment. Most importantly, it ensures traceability across cycles, allowing management to see historical trends and actually make decisions based on hard evidence. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. As a future lead auditor or an environmental manager, are you just checking a box to say an audit was done? Or are you architecting a dynamic, risk-based program that actively builds a more resilient, sustainable future for your organization? The blueprint is all right there in ISO 14001:2016. Now it is up to you to go build it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep pushing for that continual improvement.